Okay, so I will just ask that you just subscribe up to the channel and then like the video as we make progress. Now, this is it. The thing here is that it's when you want to start Excel is easy, but I always like to use the simple trick. I will just press Windows R. It's just like run. You press the Windows key. You know that key, you have the start button or the Windows button. You press it, you press R, and then you type Excel, EXCEL. You press enter. That's the fastest way I do open my own Excel, except maybe I will pin it to my task bar. But let's go into the main deal. I like to share my Excel window with you. Let me share my Excel window with you. I'm just going to share my screen so we see what we have here. All right, so I want to just indicate in the comments if you can see my screen. So now I have my screen here, and this is my Microsoft Excel window. I decided to use Excel 2.16 so that we can carry everyone along. You know, there are different versions of Excel, and different versions has different, new features, like in terms of the function, particularly the functions. But I'm using Excel 2.16. So if you're using Excel 2.16, you're using maybe 2.19, Excel 2.12. 2021, I beg your pardon, or Excel 365, you can actually follow along very well. All right, so now I have my Excel window here. First of all, I'm going to be looking at the component of the Excel window. This is a very crash course, so I will not spend much detail on this. We actually have different Excel courses where all of these have been explained in detail, and they are just available. You can take them between 2 to 3 weeks, you're done. And okay, so that's it. Now we have the Microsoft Excel window here, and on the Excel window, the first thing we have is the title bar. The title bar is usually the first bar of every active window. So where you have my Excel here, and then you have the name of this workbook here is exercise files, and then you have ISIC, that's the name the account has been registered on, and the control buttons, the minimize, the maximize or restore, and the close button is the title bar. And after the title bar, we now proceed to what we call the quick access toolbar. So if you see my mouse pointer, you will find the quick access toolbar on the top left of this window. You can see where my mouse pointer is. I have Control S for save, the undo, the redo, and you see what I have there on my quick access toolbar. And after the quick access toolbar, now the quick access toolbar is just the name, as the name implies. It's just to carry buttons and options that you can use for quick access, just for quick access, because everything you're going to be added to, you can add to the quick access toolbar. It's already available in some of these options that we have here. All right, so after the quick access toolbar, we now have the tabs. The tabs are very important because beyond just ability to write formulas, which has to do with your understanding of the functions and the operators, and then maybe at the advanced areas like going to coding, where you can actually code with Excel VBA. Every other thing you would do is limited to, is available on these tabs here, the tabs and the file menu. So for example, I have the home tab, the insert tab, and I have the page layout tab, I have the formula tab, I have the data tab, the review tab, the view, the developer, the help, and the meaning cloud. I just have all of these here available. But the meaning cloud is actually an add-in. Add-in is additional feature you add to a particular program to enhance its workability. So you will not find the cloud on your own. Okay, so it's not a must you have that, the meaning cloud. Now after then we have the file menu. So the file menu is here. It's like the traditional old menu that we used to have. You will see I have the home, the open, the save, the print. So here you can just click to print. Here you can click to save a workbook. Here you can click to just share a workbook and do a whole lot of things. After then, and I'll move on. So we have the ribbon. The ribbon is quite below the tab. You can see where my mouse pointer is. That's the ribbon, quite below the tab. So when you click on a particular tab, for example, I just clicked on the insert tab, you would see the ribbon, and I have a whole lot of features, buttons and options here on the ribbon. The same thing with page layout tab. So we usually call the ribbon along with the tabs. For example, we say the data ribbon, we say the developer ribbon, we say the home ribbon, and we say the insert ribbon. So that's how the ribbon is, for what we have in the ribbon. Okay, so let's go ahead. After the ribbon, we have the formula bar. The formula bar is very important. If you see from my mouse pointer where I just have the arrow, you know, double-sided arrow there down to where my mouse pointer is going, this particular box is what we call the formula bar. It's a very, very important Excel feature. You know, we're going to be seeing how we use it. So these are just Microsoft Excel Windows component. Now, in the formula bars, the formula bar can be used to enter and to edit worksheet data. What does it mean? If I just want to type, I can easily just type, let's say, let me zoom so that we can see what I'm typing very well. Okay, so let's say I'm typing PowerPoint, for instance, and I don't want to, I just duplicated that. So let's say I'm typing PowerPoint, for instance. Okay, so you see what I have here. If I type something like Excel at this point, you see that my PowerPoint is not showing. Or I just wanted to type power, for instance, with the field, sorry, with the formula bar, I can just click here and I just edit. That's one way. There are two ways to edit you know, cell contents. First of all, you have to click on the cell and then you click on the formula bar to edit, and that's exactly how it is. Another way to do that would be that you just double click on the cell. When you double click on the cell, it's going to reveal the cursor. You've seen the vertical blinking character on the cell. That's the cursor. So here I would just press either a delete or backspace depending on the position of the cursor to edit. And that's exactly how it is. So that's the formula bar. But then it doesn't really communicate the name because we're saying formula bar. And this is more like we're not seeing any formula. Don't worry. We're coming down to that point. Now, after the formula bar, we have the name box. But before I go ahead and explain the name box, there's something very important about Excel. Very, very important is that when we come to the cells, because all of this, what you're seeing here, like I'm zooming, are just the cells. All these boxes are cell. A cell is simply the intersection of the row and column. And the rows are the horizontal set of cells. Like I click here, I'm selecting a row, a row, a row, a row, and a row. And I have here the columns. So you see, I'm just selecting the columns here. And these are my columns. And so all of these are in a worksheet. So we have what we call the worksheet. The worksheet is made up of grid lines consisting of rows and columns. And I've said that the intersection of the row and the column are what we call the cells. So all of this is a worksheet. And that's how you see sometimes you say, hey, so can I see the sheet? You know, the sheet or the worksheet is correct. And then we have the one we call the workbook. The workbook is actually an Excel component that contains 2 or more worksheets. Depending on the version of Excel you use, you can have up to 256 worksheets and above. So that's how it is. And you can see the amazing thing. So Excel, apart from having a wider application, has a wider environment. Wider application because Excel is applicable to every discipline. I don't know of any discipline in the world today that you don't actually have Excel. And I'm yet to find any tech skill that has been taught like Excel. I mean, Excel has been taught, you know, in different ways because everybody needs Excel. Whether you're an accountant, you're a nurse, you are medical practitioner, even if you're a legal practitioner, whatever you're doing, you need Excel. The truth of the matter is that we all work with data. And when we work with data, we have to look for a way to put our data in a format we want. We have to look for a way to make sure that we can draw insights from our data. We're going to be seeing some things that we're going to do here. So that's the workbook. The workbook contains different worksheets. And you can see that at default, when you open your Excel worksheet, you open a new workbook, you're going to find just one worksheet. All right. So that's going to be sheet 1. And you can click on this plus here. We call it the sheet tab. You can click on this point to insert a new sheet, or you press Shift F11 on your keyboard to insert a new worksheet. So again, the columns are the vertical set of cells and the rows are the horizontal set of cells. Now the numbers represent the rows and the letters represent the columns. Numbers represent the rows and the letters represent the columns. So we do not have anything like column 1, column 2. No, we have column A, column B, column C. We can actually have the first column, the second column, the third column, the fourth column, the fifth column, the sixth column. That's correct. You know, we can also have row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4, row 5, and all of that. So Those are those things. But again, like I've said, all these boxes are the cells. Now just follow me. I may be too fast, but I'm going somewhere. When I get to that place, I'll slow the pace so that you can get me. Now, why did I have to take time to explain the cells, the column, the rows? And then here it is because I'm about to explain something very important. Now, there's what we call cell reference in Excel. Cell reference. Now, in a worksheet, you have more than 17 billion cells in a worksheet. So all of these are cells. You can just see, like, I'm just zooming out, all of these boxes here, they are cells. So that means that in a single Excel worksheet, if we are actually to enter the names of everybody living on this planet, one Excel sheet is okay to enter the names of everybody on this planet. That is why we say that Excel is wide, like wide. Okay, so that's the amazing thing about Excel. If we want to do that, we can actually just see that done. All right, so now, like what I have here now, you can just see that so many cells. Now, the point here is that when we get to where we start the main deal, we'll have to know how to address these cells, and that's very important. Please, 1 minute, let me power my router. Oh, so sorry about that. Now you have to know a way to just ensure that you name these cells, because every cell is given a name, and you have the advantage of leaving it for the name that Excel gave to it, or you would just want to change your name. That's what we call cell references, and we also call them defined names. So names can be defined for a particular cell. What do we really mean by this cell reference? A cell reference is a name given to a cell or range of cells. So every cell has a name. Now, how do we reference a cell? At default, a cell is referenced based on the column and row heading. For example, a cell located under column G, row 3 is called cell G3, and that's exactly how it is. But then we can give it a name. So these are just basics for those who are actually not done Excel before. I will encourage those who have actually known all of this one to stay put. We are going somewhere where we are going to be looking at those areas where everybody would have to follow along. All right, so now let's continue. I'd said something very, very important, because we need to understand how the cells are being referenced. While we're going to be going into the main deal, we're going to be looking at how to solve some problems and see how we can actually get that done, and done easily. All right, so now going back to still on my Excel worksheet, I have the cell and I've showed you. Now let me go back, because I actually omitted something. I needed to explain the cell reference. So now I have something here called the name box. The name box only shows the reference of the active cell. So what it means is that anytime you click on a particular cell, the name box is going to tell you which cell it is. All right, so you see what I have here, this cell E2. If I click here, it's telling me cell G1. If I click here, it's giving me cell C6, and that's exactly how it is with the name box. Again, I've said that a cell is referenced based on the column and row heading. For example, a cell located under column Q, row 2 is called, is called cell Q2. A cell located under column P, row 21 is called cell P21, and that's very important. Now we also have the one we call range of cells. So we can actually have cells like A2 is to maybe D2, for instance, D2. So that's a range of cell. What it simply means here is that we're talking about cells from cell A2, C2, and D2. You can equally say cell G4 is to cell B8. So what it means is that all the cells from G4 down to P4 and then G8 down to P8 is actually within this range. So we use this in formulas often when we are trying to avoid the unnecessary typing of cells separately. All right, now let's go into the main deal. That was just to let us know, for those who are not actually doing Excel. I like to just remind us that We have detailed courses where all of this is being taught with different examples, and you take time to go through it. That's very, very, very important. So because we have limited time, we cannot actually just go into details in everything in this course here. Now let's go ahead. So here we said that Excel can be used in solving problems. You know, there are different problems that can be solved with Excel. Sometimes a lot of people just say, Excel, too much calculation. No, it's not every problem in Excel that can be calculations. No. It's not every problem that can be calculations. Some problem you have in Excel may not be calculation. Some could just be a little just arranging things in order. And then, for example, let's look at some of those examples. For example, I have this list here, and I have amount sold, you know, sales rep, and I have the amount sold, and I have names of different sales reps here. So what if I just want to sort their names in ascending order or descending order? Like I just want to arrange their names in alphabetical order. I don't need a formula to have this. All I would just have to do is to select the cells, and then either go to the home, click on sort, and I say sort ascending, and you see what I have here. So I'm not having Aliyu, Bello, and then Chinonso will follow, then Oche, then Udwak, Obong, and that's it. So that's exactly how it is. It's not everything. Okay, let's assume that, for example, so that's how to sort. You would have to select the cells you want to sort, and then either you click on data. From data, you will now go to sort. So you have sort here. From sort, you will now be able to specify what you want to sort. For example, now this is more like the advanced sort. I can say, okay, I want to sort the sales rep by the sales value. Okay, and then I want to sort from A to Z. That's ascending order. I click OK. That's how we have it. So what if you now say, okay, you're working, let's say, can we see, let all the reps be arranged, or the table should be arranged by descending order. You know, let's say the highest amount of, you know, that was sold, and then our focus now is not going to be on sales rep. We'll just move on and then go to that same data. From data, we click on sort. From sort, we're now saying, okay, we're sorting the amount sold. And what are we sorting? The cell values. We just sort from the largest, you know, to the smallest, and we click OK. So you can see now the focus is not actually on the names again. That's why you see that Chinonso comes here first, but it's actually on the amount that was sold. So these are just examples, you know. So it's not everything that are formulas, but they are actually the aspect of formulas. I've just showed us now. Now let's look at another example. What if we're now saying, okay, we have a long list here, and I say, okay, these are the sales were in Naira, they are not in dollars. Can you put the Naira currency? Now, to some of you, you may not have the Naira currency at default on your version, on your Excel. Okay, this lesson will not afford us the opportunity of going into all of that. But then, like I said, we have courses where some of those things have been explained, and we'll also interact in our various groups where we're going to be looking at some of this. But I just want to change this now to another currency. So I can just come to this home tab, and then I go to currency, and I have currency. I've actually set the Naira to be my default currency. Yours may be dollars. So if I want to change the dollars, you can see what I'm just doing here. I can just click here and I change it to pounds, and I can click here, I change it to euro. So sometimes this may be the only thing you need to do in your data, and that's okay. And if you see what I have here, mine is giving me 0.00. So it's giving me the values are in 2 decimal places, and I may not necessarily need these values here because this is actually much. Okay, so I would need to just take off the 0.00. Now, one thing I like to explain here is this. I have a large data set here. Let me quickly see how many cells or how many cells I have here. How do I do? One of the things you need to learn is how to navigate within your worksheet. There are keyboard shortcuts that helps you to do that. For example, we can press Control End. If I press Control End, it's going to take me to the last data in a particular data area, because since this worksheet is very wide, Excel will just be focusing on your data area. So, for example, if I just click anywhere in the Excel worksheet and I press Control Home, you know, it's going to take me to the beginning of the worksheet. So control home to the beginning of the worksheet, control end to the end of the worksheet. Now, control end will only give you the end of the worksheet when you do not click on the data area. Then we have control right arrow key will take you to the last column. You can see it's amazing. The column is from A to Z, and then when I start from ZA to XAD, you know, ZA to ZZ, and then we now have all of that AAA to AAZ. There are so many. Now, if I want to go to the last row, I'll press control down arrow key. So again, control up arrow key to go to the first row, control down arrow key to go to the last row, control left arrow key to go to the first column, control right arrow key to go to the last column. But control home will always take you back to the beginning of your worksheet. Okay, so that is, by the way. Now I have this area here. You can see from what I have here, I have my sales rep, the amount sold, and all of this. At this area now, I'm trying to just see the last data here. So imagine how I have to scroll through. Maybe I have up to 1,000, data. Will I be able to scroll through all of this? No. Excel makes that easy. So we can press control down arrow key, and that's going to take us to the end within that data area, because now, since this worksheet is very wide, everything has been segmented. So we're focusing only on this data area. That's the most important thing here. Okay, so that's it. So I wanted to see the end here. I can just do that. But then there's something I want to do, because I want to actually select what I have here. I want to actually select what I have here. How would I select? The primary key for selecting is shift. So you hold down the control and the shift key, you press the down arrow key, it will definitely take you to the end of the worksheet. So that makes it easy. It saves us the stress of what some people would do, like we'll just hold down the shift key and we keep doing like this. Imagine how long we're going to do this to get it. No. So we just press control shift and down arrow key, and there we have it. So from here now, I can just decrease my decimal. So I can just click here to decrease my decimal, and that's exactly what I have. So you can see from some of the things we do now, there are a lot of things you can do that does not really need the formula. Let's look at other examples. For example, one funny thing about Excel is that there are what we call cell formats. So the cell comes in different formats. At default, it uses the general format. So the general format does not have any specific format, but there are other formats like what I'll click here, like the number, the currency, the accounting, the short dates, the long dates, and then we have the time, the percentage, the fraction, the scientific, all of that, and the text. Now, so if I want, for instance, when Nigerians, largely Nigerians, I know, are joining this class, I know that there will be people in the other countries joining this class. But what if I want to type phone numbers? Phone numbers in Nigeria is just 31242703, and I press enter, or 0706939 whatever. It just 5048, and you see exactly what I have here. The most important thing here is just that the phone numbers are not showing me the first number. Why is this so? Because Excel considers this first number as redundant. It considers that redundant. But what if you really need the phone numbers to be showing? Now, this is not only applicable to phone numbers, they are also for different kinds of data. Maybe you want to do something like +234, and then you have, even if you want to say +2 or +5 or +7, how would you deal with this? Now, again, you don't need formulas to solve this kind of problem. we're going to see how to deal with this now. In Excel, we have what we call the cell format. But for most beginners, there's a way they deal with this type of data. Some people would want to change the cell format from general to text. Now, the text will have everything treated as text. And if you notice what I just did now, the moment I did that, my values, everything you have on these cells, we call it the values. My values are aligned to the right. So values can be numeric values, they can be alphanumeric values, they can be, alphabetic values. So my values just got aligned to the right. Why? Because I changed the cell format to text. So you can see I just undo, and everything is on the right, because at default, they all align to the right, except you're entering text, or we call them strings in Excel. But then let's look at what we have here. So I can just select this, and I say, okay, I change the format down to text. And when I change the format to text, you see exactly what I have here. It's not giving me, what I'm looking for, because I will have to be typing all of this thing now to be putting the 0. And if you notice very well, there's a green patch here. Let me zoom so that we can see very well. You can see this green patch on the cell. Excel is trying to tell me that numbers is being stored as text. So if I have to convert it to number, or I'll have to ignore and all of that. But that's not the point, because if I'm doing it this, maybe there are numbers I would later want to use for calculation. It will return an error. So this is not actually the solution, the real solution to this problem. The real solution would be that you change the cell format. So how do we do that? Now, you always need to know the data you want to have. For instance, if I want to be entering phone numbers, let's take phone numbers, for example, and I want to be having phone numbers like 080 and all of those things, I will have to select the cells. So how do you select? You click and drag on the cells, and then you either come here to the format, and then you click on, we're going to be going to the custom format. So these are different formats here, but here, let me click on more number format. Or I would press Ctrl+1 on my keyboard to open the format cells dialog box. So at this point, I'm going to go to custom, because at this point we have the general, the number. One of our lessons in our courses, we have actually taken time to explain all of these with different examples. But then let me just go ahead and see what we want to have here. So at this point, I want phone numbers. So we already have the custom here, and everything is just showing the way it is. I don't want this format. So there are different things you can do. All right, I can just say 0, and then I'll just use the hash. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And if I do, I press enter. The hash there represents numbers. So whatever number you want to enter now will be followed by a 0. So if I just enter that, let's say 31242703, and I press enter, you see Excel automatically adds the 0 for me. So I will not have that issue of trying to put the zeros again. Let's say 69390548. You see, I already have the 0. So whatever number I'm entering on this cell, Excel adds 0 to it. You can see what we have here. So that's it. If you actually was looking at adding all of this. Now, what if I want to just say +2, +3, +4? Let's do that, and then we move to something else. I'll just go back to that cells, and then custom. I can just say okay. I can just say plus, and maybe +0, or just plus, and then I add the numbers I want, and I press enter. So when you just enter any number, Excel automatically add plus to you. There are so many things you can do with this. All right, and we're taking time to explain that in our some of our Excel courses. Okay, so that's it about that. So you can see that there are lots of things you can do with Excel that doesn't necessarily require formulas. But I'm not going to lie to you, the formulas are actually the big deal. They are like the main deal as far as Excel is concerned. So this is important. Now we go ahead on this. Okay, somebody saying account number starting with 02. All right, can you slow down small? All right. Okay, so thank you very much. Yes, somebody said I should slow down. Okay, I'm going to slow down now. I'm going to slow down very, very well, like very, very well now, because I needed to just take us through that, and then the video will always be available for you to watch it again. We have quite a limited time, and then we have lessons that take care of all of these things extensively. All right, so let's go into the big deal. Let's talk about the formulas. Formulas are very important. They help you to solve problems very easy. And a lot of people complain about formulas in Excel. Like we know that there's this phobia that comes with calculation and mathematics. Everybody wants to run away from mathematics. Everybody, not everybody anyway. There are people who don't like mathematics. Now, but mathematics is actually easy, though I'm not a mathematician anyway. Excel has actually helped improve my skills in mathematics anyway, or calculation. That's one thing that Excel will do for you. Excel will teach you accounting. Excel will teach you statistics. Excel will teach you pure mathematics. Excel will teach you engineering. Excel will teach you even health, even finance. We have a course coming up in financial analysis and modeling. So Excel is going to teach you all of these things. I'm going to show you. Just follow me. Now, in Excel, we have formulas. What are really these formulas? Let me slow down for this one now. Now, in a very simple term, a formula or formulas are mathematical expressions that we create. Whereas we have what we call the functions. Functions are predefined or pre-written or inbuilt formulas. So, what does it mean? Predefined or pre-written or inbuilt formulas. Now, one thing is very certain in Excel. Formulas always begins with an equal sign, and I like us to take note of that very well. Formulas always begins with an equal sign. All right, formulas always begins with an equal sign. So when we say formulas in Excel, it may not necessarily be when you have all of these big jobs that you want to just do the analysis. It may not necessarily be all of those things. It could just be that you're just looking for an environment you can use as a calculator. I haven't seen any calculator in the world that can beat Excel. I don't know if there exists such, but I don't know of anyone. I haven't seen anyone yet. Now, so I use my Excel as my calculator. I can do a whole lot of things, but then you have to understand the concept of the formula. Now, we said that formulas begins with an equal sign. We know that traditionally, if we want to say 3 plus 2 is equals to 5, so that would have been 3 plus 2 is equals to 5. That's what we'll have. But in Excel, we begin the formula with an equal sign, and we call that equal sign the formula wizard. Now, I like to just point out something here again, where we may likely see in this class. Now, the equal sign is also an operator in Excel. In Excel, what we call operators specify the type of calculation you want to perform on the elements of a formula. So there are different kinds of operators. We have the arithmetic operators. We call them calculation operators, but we have the arithmetic operators. We have the text and concatenation operators. We have that's what we have, the comparison or the logical operators. We also have the one we call the reference operators. But here, so if I want to find these 3 plus 2 in Excel, that's going to be it equals to 3, then plus, then 2, and I press enter. So it's only when you press enter, that's when you now see, and you see it's still giving me plus 5 because I added that cell. So let me go and remove that. I will just come here and change it to general, or we'll just, did you see what I just did there? Okay, I'll select the cell and then come to where we have this custom, click on general. So everything here returns normal. So that's it. Formulas begins with an equal sign. So now we now have what we call, so I can say, okay, it's divide 562 by 3. So I can say it's equals to 562 divided by 3, and I press enter. So that's it. But then quickly, before we go into to see how we can practically use this to solve different problems, let's look at what we call the calculation operators, the common one we're going to use here. Now we have the plus. The plus is used for addition. We have the asterisk. The asterisk is used for multiplication. We have the forward slash. The forward slash. So we have the forward slash. The forward slash is used for division. We have the minus sign. The minus sign is used for subtraction and negation. That's when we're working with negative numbers. And then we have the caret. The caret, if you press shift and 6 on your keyboard, it gives you the caret. It's used for exponentiation. We have, again, there are so many of them, but these are arithmetic operators I'm listing now. We have the percent sign, and the percent sign is just used for percentage. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. These are what we call arithmetic operators in Excel. There are only 6, but like I said, there are other operators, so we call them arithmetic operators. So let me zoom back so that we can see it very, very well. Now let's look at how we can use them. So I can say, if I want to add 2 numbers, I can just say it equals to this number plus this number, and I press enter. I can equally say, okay, 3 times, you see what I'm doing, 3 times 7, and I press enter. I can also say population of Nigeria 200, let's say 220 million, for instance. I don't know if up to that, divided by 6 geopolitical zone. So I press enter. So 220 million, if that's correct, divided by 6, and that's how it is. So I can also say, okay, let's subtract, 36 states, we subtract this okay, let's just subtract 875 or 55 from 875. So we can just say minus 55. So you see, I can actually use Excel to do all of this thing. Now we can find power. Power is just exponentiation. This is used for exponentiation. So I can say 2 raised to power 3. So I can just say is equals to 2, then shift plus 6, and then 3. You press enter. I can equally say is equals to maybe 2 raised to power 10, for instance. That should give us 1024. So we press enter. There's how it is. Now we have the percentage. I'm going to show us the percentage now. On the percentage here, it's just the same thing as saying over 100. And in Excel, percentage is just over 100. Now, so we can say it's equals to, how do we find percentage in Excel? First of all, let me look at the way we find it in normal mathematics. If we're looking for 36% of this amount, so let me just give this a few color. Yeah, let me color it yellow. I'm just looking at 36% of this. All right, so 36 shift and 5, you have your percent. If I want to find this in Excel, that would be is equals to 36. You will always add the percent sign, the 36 times, and then I have 149,979. I press enter, and that's exactly what you have here. And that's giving me, do you know why it's still giving me this 0? Because of that cell formatting. So let me change it to general. So you see, that's it. That's it. 36% of 149,979 is this 53 points. That's 54. Let's just say 54, almost 53,900, and and this value that we have here. But in our normal mathematics, we would have done this by saying, okay, that would have been 36, or the number first, 149,979 times, so let's use this. So we'll say times 36, and then we'll now say divided by 100. But in Excel, this divided by 100 is the same thing as the percent sign. That's why we do not put it. So we can just say, let's find 3% of a particular number. We'll say it equals to 3% times maybe a particular number here. We press enter. So that's exactly how it is. But then I like us to just move, as we're going to be explaining other things. Let's move a little bit higher and see how we start solving problems. Okay, so now all of this that I've just explained here, we can choose to say, okay, let's not limit it to the values, because Excel has the ability to recalculate itself after a change to a single cell is made. What do I mean? Now, for example, let's assume that I wanted to find let me zoom in again. I want to find 2% of this value. 2% of this value. I would say is equals to 2% times, where is the value? 2% times this value. So I'll just click on this cell. Now, where is the value? Remember the cell reference. I'll now say cell B8. Why? Because the value I'm looking for is in cell B8. So that's why I'm just saying is equals to 2% times B8. Or even want to use that 36% that we used before. So let's use 36% so that we'll see if we're going to have the same result. When I say 36% times B8, we press enter. Now, you will see that you notice two things here. Let me close up this space here. I'll just delete. All right, I'm closing up this space here. So you see exactly what I have here. This was 36% times this, and you see we have the same answer here. Okay, let me color the two of them by giving it a color blue. Right, so that's a field color. I just selected and click here. Now you see what I have here. This is actually giving me this. So I like to add the currency. So let me add the currency as well. So I just add the currency here. You see exactly what I have. Now you will see here that we still have the same 53,992 naira, and we're still having the same. Now I'm going to show you the difference. Most times that's why we use the cell reference. We prefer to use the cell reference, but not in all cases anyway, than to just use the values directly. So we can actually say this value here. What if we change this value? Let's assume there was a mistake. It wasn't actually 149,000. It was 169,000. And we remember this the formula bar now. I press enter. Now, have you noticed one thing? This one has changed, but this one hasn't changed. Now, what's the difference? The difference is that in the first formula, we actually use the value directly. Okay. And in the second formula, we did not use the value, but rather we use the cell reference. So now that we use the cell reference in each of these, we use the cell reference on this other one here. It allows Excel to be able to recalculate itself after a change to that cell is made. So whatever changes is applicable to this cell, even we now say, okay, we now press enter, exactly, you see exactly what we would have here at this point. So the values keep changing, the values keep changing, the values keep changing. All right, so that is it about the operators. Let's talk about the functions so that we get in and see some examples of problems we are going to solve. There are what we call functions. Functions are predefined or inbuilt or pre-written formulas. Predefined or pre-written formulas. Yes, it's recorded. Somebody is saying we should record. Yes, it's recorded. I'd like to know if you're following. Okay. Okay, so just indicate hi if you're here and you're following. All right, so let's continue. Now you see what I have here. Just going to be looking at the function. So there are words we can use. They're most like special words that Excel understand. Anytime you bring any of those words, Excel will understand. But then they won't just understand it until you pre-inform them. How do you pre-inform them? If I type sum here, for instance, Excel doesn't take it as anything. If I type if here, Excel doesn't take it as anything. If I type, sum if here, Excel doesn't take it as anything. But what does it mean? It simply means that those are just text. But when you're about entering a formula and you bring in any of those words, Excel will understand. So there are some of them like sum, like count, like if, like max, like mean, like average, like average. And you see exactly what I have here. So here I can actually say, okay, sum. I can now say is equals to sum. And you see exactly what I have here. So the moment I just start typing S, Excel will now start bringing out the list of functions we have under S. So I just type sum. And what I need to do now is to open a parenthesis. You just open a parenthesis, or after typing the sum, you can press tab, when it pops up. So you open the parenthesis. What does it mean? Sum, it's simply used to add, it's a function that adds all numbers in the range of cells. So I can just open it and say, okay, I want to add. What am I adding? I'm adding from cell D1 to cell D8. So I can say D1 is to D8. Now, why am I using that column? Excuse me. Is because I've defined a range. That means I don't want to just start typing D1, D2, D3, D4. I just select that and you see D1 is to D8. So I can press enter. And when I press enter, that gives me the answer. But the beauty of it, like I said, is that what if this guy changes to 02? It will also change at this point. What if this guy changes to 1,300 and all of this? It will also change. So that's the sum. The sum is used to add. Then we have the count. Then we have the mean. Then we have the if. Then we have the max. Now, there are so many of them, but then let's see how we can put them into practice. So let me insert some rows or some columns. To insert a column, you just click on the column where you want to insert a new column, right click and click insert, or you just click there. For example, I just click here now. I can equally click on insert here and you would have a new column inserted. Okay, I don't want this design to be here, so I'm going to take this off here. I'll probably Just don't want the borders. Okay, so now let's start seeing how we can solve problems. I'm going to be using some of these functions here. First of all, I have a list here. And on this list, I have different sales reps. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I can see the response coming in. Thank you. Now here, I have the list here and I can see different sales reps and the amounts they sold. So that means that their sales were recorded for each day. That's just the meaning. Their sales were recorded for each day. Their sales were recorded for each day. So what are we going to do here? Now, from what we have here, the first thing we want to answer, let's see how we can answer some questions. It could be that we want to find the total sales for all the employees. So we can say total sales for all the employees. So let me change my font color to this color here. So we say total sales for all the sales reps. How are we going to do this? Now for the total sales now, we'll have to use a function called sum. Sum is just used to add numbers in the range of cell. So we now say is equals to sum, S-U-M, and then we open the parentheses. What are we going to do? We have to define the cells that contains these values that we want to add. And the values are from cell B2 down to cell, a whole lot of cells. This is cell 213. So what are we going to do there? So we just say sum this and then we sum it. So how am I going to do? Now, since I already know the cell reference, okay, since I know the cell reference, I can actually just type it myself. So I'll say is equals to B sum, open parenthesis, cell B2 is to be 101 or 111, for instance. So let's see 101 and see what I have here. I'm scrolling down. Oops. Oh, cell 213. Yes. So let's call it cell B213. And you see exactly what I have here. I close the parentheses. Now, if I press enter now, I will be able to answer the question. The first question we've answered here is, first of all, we have been able to answer the question that asks how much sales were made. That's for all of the sales reps. How much sales did they make? And that's the first question we've been able to answer here. We're going to see how to answer different questions. Excuse me. From this same table. So here we've seen how much sales were made, by all of the sales reps. That's it. We just have that. Now, but there's something about this table. This table here, we have different cells that came in from different days and by different sales reps. So that means Kayode the first day reported so number of sales. Second day, same Kayode. Next day, Kayode. Then Urabon proceeded. We had Urabon. Oche follows. Chin also followed. Aliyu followed. And then Bello followed. And we have Bello, Aliyu, Kayode, Chinonso, and Urabon. All of them are different employees. Now, what if, since we have repeated names of all the employees, we just have repeated names of all the employees. What if now we want to further answer further questions, from these cells? We want to say, okay, what are the employees? How many number of sales did they make? All right. How many number of sales did they make? For example, so let's say name. So we have the names of the employees. Let me centralize that and bold. I have the names of the employees. So I would say number of sales. So I call this number of sales. All right. So the next thing I will say amount sold. All right. So here we're looking for a way to solve a problem, to answer a question here. The question we're asked is that apart from the first one, we saw how we're able to know the total sales by each of the employees. But here now, we want to find out how many employees do we have? That's number one. Number two, how many sales did each of them make? That's number two. Number three, what's the amount of the total sales, made by each of the employee? So how are we going to answer this question? Now, like I said, there are different functions. The only thing you need to know is that each time you are you are confronted with a problem, you need to know exactly the function you should use. Here, we would first of all need to find the names. Now, I'm going to show you something. We have about 213 records here, all right? And assuming that we had like maybe 1,000 records and we have about 212 names, how are we be able to just start typing each of the names one after another, one after another, one after another, one after another? Now, Excel made that easy. There are functions. There's a function you can use to collect only the unique values in this data, because we want to have the unique values. The unique values will be able to give us the names of all the sales reps. We first need their names. That's the most important thing we need here before we now go by their total number of sales, before we now go by the total number of amounts sold. So how do we get that done? Now, I'm using Excel 2.16. The amazing thing about Excel is that each version of Excel comes with new functions, and these new functions are not available. Now, in our courses, we have actually taken time to teach these functions. We've just added more of these functions to our courses where you can learn. There are new functions like the unique. That's what we're going to use. The unique is there. The sort is there. The sort by is there. The sort by is there. The sequence is there. And then a lot. The sequence is there. Then the X lookup is here. There are so many of them. All of these are new functions. The lambda is there. The lambda. So the lambda is there. All of these are new functions that we have in Excel. So they are just new, very new functions. So if you're using a lower versions of Excel, all of these are not available in your own version. But since we are taking us through this process, I'm going to explain what do we do. What if I'm confronted with a job like this? What should I do? There are options. There are two options you can use. All right, you can use Excel Online and you can also use Google Sheet. Google Sheet is a similar application like Excel, and it's also used for everything that you know what Excel is used for. Not necessarily everything, but Excel does it advanced than Google Sheet. So what it actually means here is that I'm confronted with a problem. I can't start typing all of these names one after another looking for the names, because it's going to be very stressful. So we have like 200 names. No, I won't do that. In 2,000 records. Now let me show us. I'm going to share my screen. So, but then let me go to Google Sheet. I like to just open Google. So just hold on. I know you're still seeing my Excel sheet. Okay. Now I've actually, you can see my Google Sheets here, and here everything is just, I have some it's just blank for this particular account because I haven't added anything. But I'm going to show you how to solve that problem. There are two ways. Either you go to Excel Online, so I can just type Excel Online on my browser, Excel Online. Okay, but you need to have a Microsoft account so that you'll be able, because it will allow you to just save your data as well. So Excel Online, you see what I have here. Now, but the Google Sheet, you can as well use the Google Sheet like what I have here. Now, let's start with the Google Sheet while Excel Online is loading. Here, I have a problem. The problem I have here, I want to just pick out the unique names here. So I can just copy this, just press Ctrl Shift and down arrow key after clicking on the first cell. So I'll go to this and I'll click on blank. From the blank, the Google Sheet is opening. All right, so you can see I have Google Sheets here. It's just, most times I use Google Sheet, sometimes I use Google Sheets. It depends on the nature of work, but the desktop application has more features. It's more advanced than the Google Sheet. There are limitations with Google Sheet, but it's a very good alternative. A very, very good alternative. We have a course that will be coming for Google Sheet. You can find some of those videos on our page, and then all of that, and the one we've shared on our various platforms. Okay, so now I just copy the data and paste. I believe everybody knows how to copy and paste. That's Ctrl C to copy and Ctrl V to paste. All right. So I copy this and paste. But like what I have here, I've already seen this. The reason why I'm bringing this to Google Sheet is this. I like us to understand that there's a function I want to use. But since I'm using Excel 2.16, I am being limited because that function is not available. So it's going to make my work very tedious. Now, again, look at Excel Online here. So the same thing, I can easily just come to this new blank worksheet with Excel Online. And oops, okay, let me leave that. I think it's not giving me what I'm looking for. It's trying to reload again, so let me just leave it. Let's focus with the Google Sheet. It's the same thing you would do with Excel. It's the same process. So here I would just say is equals to unique. I'm typing the formula now. So now say unique. I'm picking this. The first thing I'll have to do here is to select the range. So I'll just select the range. So you will just click and drag on the range, and then I'll press enter. You see exactly what it gives me. Here I've been able to find the unique list because Kayode has met several cells. Udoabon has met several cells on different days. Oche has met several cells on different days. Chinonso has met several cells on different days. Aliyu has done something. Bello has done something. So how am I going to do? Well, I need to start picking that. So, okay, let's write it down. Kayode, you know, sometimes you may not know them. You're just receiving this data. And everything I've explained here is applicable to every kind of data. So you want to just pick out the unique list. You don't want to work with those repetitions. Beg your pardon. You don't want to work with those repetitions. You just want to pick out the unique list. So now, since we're using Excel on application and we're using a version where that function is not available, we decided to look for an alternative. A very quick alternative is to use the Google Sheet or Excel Online. So how do we do that, or what did we do? We open the Google Sheet. We copy the data and paste, and then we use the formula is equals to unique. We'll just type unique here, and then we press the tab key. So here I'll just select the range. Now, if you notice, I'm going to explain that again. If I press comma here, it's giving me by column exactly one. Now, anytime you're typing formulas in Excel or Google Sheet, those arguments, these are arguments. Argument is just telling you the things you need to include for the function to be able to carry out the calculation. Now, when you find arguments that are in square brackets, they are optional. They're not a must that you must put them. For example, now I'm only doing the range. I'm going to explain that later. I'll just press enter. So now I've been able to find my unique list. So I'll copy this and go to Excel. All right. I'll copy this and go to Excel. So let me just see what we have here. Let me go to Excel. I think this is where we were. So now I return to Excel. I've copied that list. Remember, I just copied that list from Google Sheet. So I'll paste the list here. All right, you can see what I have here. So let me just right click and paste only values. Here I want to paste to match that here. Okay, so now I've been able to know the list, like the list of the names of all the sales reps. The next question they're asking me is that how many number of sales did a particular rep made? Because I wouldn't still start counting manually and say, okay, Kayode made how many number of sales? Urabo made how many number of sales, you know, or Che made how many numbers of sales, Chinon. So I have to look for a way to solve this problem now. And the only way I can do this is okay, so we're together. I hope you're still here. Okay, so let's continue. Now, I've been able to extract this and I have this list. So here I actually know the names of the sales reps. So question number one has been answered in this work. The number one, they are asking us how many number of sales did a particular rep made. How are we going to do that? We can say is equals to, here we are going to use a function, and again formulas will have to come in. How do we use this formula here to solve this problem? You know, how do you use this formula to solve this problem? What kind of formula do we want to use? Because here we want to find the number of sales made by a particular, you know, employee or sales rep. Are we going to count them one after another? No. There's a function called count, and there's a function called count if. There's another one called count a, count blank, and count ifs. Now, in our courses, we've extensively explained all of this very well. We've explained all of this very well. Okay, so we just encourage you to join the courses and take any of those courses. You have detailed explanation, and we'll always be there to take your questions. and that's very important. So I would say is equals to count, but I'm not using count because count will only count the number of cells, so number of values in the range of cells. For example, I will say is equals to count B2. I type B2 is to B13. Remember, that's the cell reference, B13. So B2 is to B13, and I press enter. It's just telling me that, okay, from this place to this place, look at what is just counting here. B2 or 213, I beg your pardon, 213. 213. So I press enter, and that gives me 222. And you see, it's just giving me this this currency. So let me deal with the currency. I don't need the currency, I beg your pardon. I don't need the currency. I have to change the cell format like we did here. I'll change it back to general. Okay. So here you see we have 212 cells were made, because that's if we are looking for total number of cells. But here we're not looking for the total number of cells. What we're actually looking for at this point is that how many cells did Urabon make? How many did Ochen make? You know, how many did Chinonso make? So we can say is equals to here. We're now saying count if. The count if is different from count. Count if is logical. You can say count the number of cells within a range that meets the given condition. So a condition will have to be specified. So what am I actually doing here? I'm actually saying, okay, is equals to count if. So when you type function, Excel will ask you of the arguments. The argument is the composition you would have to be able to allow that function to be able to carry out the calculation. So here now I would have this, they say range. So what are the range? What Excel is actually asking me is that, okay, so which range are you, where is the data you're looking for? Which range are you looking for here? I will now come and click here. When I click at this point and also, okay, from what I have here, I'll select it from the beginning to the end, okay? So because that's just how it is, you know, for that particular range. That's the range. And now say, okay, what's the criteria? Criteria, what are you looking for? You know, I'm counting if. So the count if simply means count if this or that is done or this is done. So I'm just saying count if Urabon. So it's going to look for Urabon and count how many times Urabon has made cells. So now I would pick the range or the criteria as this, and I press enter. So it tells me that Urabon has made 22 cells. So if I copy it down anyway, it's going to be, but it's not the correct thing. I'm going to tell you why this is not correct. In Excel, there's what we call absolute reference. If you notice very well, how do I copy formulas? I just click and drag to copy the formulas. So I click and drag to copy the formulas, like what I have here. You can see what I have here. I have here A2 is to A213. This one is giving me this A3, and it's not supposed to be so. So there's a problem somewhere, and I'm going to tell you. So it's only the first one here that is correct. There could be some changes, but that is because Excel is using relative reference here. So the moment I'm done with this one, it now shifted this down, down, down. So what I would have done here is to lock the cells. Why do we lock the cells? So that when we are copying formulas to other cells, Excel will not change the cell reference. So I would say it's equals to count if, and the count if, and also, okay, what am I counting? The range. So again, like I said, you will not have all the time to click and drag this thing. Just click on the first one, press Ctrl Shift, and then down arrow key. So I have the entire this is selected. So how do we make lock cells so that when we copy it down, it won't be changing? After typing the cell reference like this, press F4 on the keyboard. F4. We have explained, we have a lesson we just dedicated in our Excel lesson to explain this relative reference with further different examples. Okay, so this now I have locked it. And that's how you see the $B, $2, and B, $213. It should show that the cell has been locked. We have made that cell to be absolute. It's not going to change in the course of the formula. So I'll now press comma. Anytime you have, you put comma to be able to move from one argument to the next argument. So here we're asked to enter the criteria. What's the criteria? The criteria is this cell that I'm looking for. So I can now press enter. What's that again? Okay, I'm looking at something that's B2 to B13, and then D4. Okay, let me check. There's something wrong somewhere there. It's equals to count if, and then I'm going to pick my range here. Okay, so again, I'll lock the cells and I'll say comma. I'll pick this. Okay, I think I know what the problem is. So let me just return here. I know what the problem is. So I'm going to lock the cells. I'll just click here and then lock the cells. Now, apart from just locking the cells when you're entering the formula, you can actually do that by just clicking on the cell reference and entering it, or you can manually add the dollar sign like what I just did now, and I press enter. Okay, it's because I actually alter some of the content, and that's how I change it. So you can see what I have here. All of these are just A2, A213, all of them A2. It doesn't change in the course of the formula. So what does it mean? What I simply did here was just to say it equals to count if. Again, I'm going to repeat that. And then I now say, okay, what am I counting? They now say the range. So I would have to select the range. And I'll press Ctrl Shift and down arrow key to select the range. But in order not for the range to change, I'll press F4 after doing that. And then I'll put comma and I'll click to put the way I have the criteria here. So I did that. And that gives me the answer. But here, so here we've been able to answer the question. We can now say, okay, that Urabon made 22 cells, Oche made 19 cells, Chinonso made 37 cells, and Aliyu 24 cells, and Bello 107 cells. Now let's further example and see what we do. For example, here now they now say, okay, so how much cells did Urabon make? That's the question we want to answer now. How many cells did Oche made? How many cells did Aliyu made? How many cells did Bello made? All of those things are the questions we want to answer now. Now we can now say, okay, there's another function. We cannot say sum. If we say sum, we just want to add. We saw how we use the sum to add to know that the total amount of 36,272,363 cells, amount was made for cells. But here now we're looking for individual cells rep. How much cells did they made? So here we're going to say is equal to sum if. Now I'm using the sum if because sum if will add the cells by specified by a given condition. So here I would now say, okay, sum, now say the range. You see the range here, so we're still going to pick the range here, and I'll pick the range because I'm looking for all of them. So I click to select the cells rep. Again, I'm going to freeze that so that when we copy it down, we wouldn't have any issue. And I say comma, I'm going to pick the criteria. So on the criteria, I'm picking Urabon, for instance. And then they now have what we call the sum range. So the sum range means that which value, the range that contains the value you want to sum. So I just freeze that and I press enter. So when we click and copy this down together, you will see that we have the various cells made by each. So let me add the currency. So we have the various cells. Now we've been able to answer, okay, how many cells did Oche made? How many cells did Urabon made? Did Chinon, so did Aliyu? And that's exactly what we have at that point. Again, let's look at that again before we proceed to something else. And I'll say it equals to sum if. From sum if, I'm putting the range. So the range we'll have to select here. So because I first of all look at the names, because I'm looking at picking by the names. So I'll now pick the names. I'll select the range where I have the names. And I'll say shift and F4. And I'll command the set criteria. So who am I looking for in the names? I'm looking for Urabon. That's the criteria. So if I look, when I find Urabon, what should happen? I say, okay, look at the corresponding cell for Urabon under this particular range of cells here and add all the values together, So that's why we have this. This again will be frozen. So this will be frozen and then we press enter. So we now click. Again, we just use what we call the fill handle to click and drag. There's a video on Ultratech system page where we have different ways you can copy formulas. I like you to just like the page, and I'd like you to subscribe to this channel as well. Your reaction on this video, very important. Now, like I said, this is you can see from what we've done here now, there's a lot to be learned. There's actually no way we can cover all of this, even in a day training or a 1 week training. There's so much. That's why we put up. We have several courses. In your various groups that you join these classes, you're going to get details about our courses in the various groups, from Ultratech system and from our partner Edu Consult, so you're going to get more details, and we have a course that is coming up very soon. We encourage you to join, so that one thing about learning is that you don't just learn this thing and give it a break and say, okay, let me just go, when I'll do it later. You'll find out that you always get something to do, and when you just learn and pause, you're like, sometimes the passion will drop. So we just encourage you that we have a course coming up very soon. By tomorrow, we're just going to talk more about that. Tomorrow, we're going to be looking at PowerPoint, and PowerPoint is not going to be like Excel. PowerPoint is very straightforward and direct. You will enjoy. I encourage you to stay for the PowerPoint because it's very straightforward and direct. You enjoy the PowerPoint. It's very straightforward and direct. Okay, so let's continue. Now you see we've been able to solve this problem. Amazing. So there's actually so much to learn. We have all of those in our courses, so we encourage you to take those courses from the various group you join us. Our team there will just feed you with details about our courses. But I'm going to show us something here. I'm going to show us another example. Let's look at other example here. All right, I'm sure you can see my screen. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. So now we get over to that again. Now we're looking at, so we have the scores here, and then we have the grade, and then we have the remarks. Now, sorry about that. Tomorrow we're doing PowerPoint, so I don't think we'll not have this kind of issue, because in PowerPoint we'll just be focusing in one window. So sorry about that. It's not really chaotic. Thank you. Okay, so we now have the scores. We have the grade. We have what we're basically looking for here is that, okay, it has been spelled out that between 650, anybody who scores less than 60, beg your pardon, is failed, and that's between 50 to maybe 59.9999999, and the same thing between 60 to 70. So what we want to do here is to determine whether this person has B or A or D or A based on the parameters we've given here. So it's more like everything has been stated here, the grading. Now, there are different ways, but I want to introduce a new function, a new way we can do it. We can actually use the if function to do this. But the if function, we are going to write a long formula. But I'm going to tell you when the if can come in, and I'm going to tell us when the lookup can come in. Because if they are telling us that, okay, the lowest score is just 50. So all the scores we have here is between 50 to probably 100. So definitely the if function does not necessarily, we don't necessarily need the if function. But if we have values that are below 50, the lookup function would not be able to return what we're looking for. So what does it mean? Look at it. For example, we now say it equals to lookup, and the lookup now, we're now picking the lookup value. So the lookup value is where we have this cell here, that cell B10. We now press comma. The next thing is asking us where is the lookup vector. The lookup vector is this the scores we have here. So we select the scores. In order for us to be able to copy this down to other cells, we'll press function, then F4. We just press F4 on the keyboard, comma, and then we have the lookup value array. So we now select these and we press this. You see what we have there. So you see, first of all, the lookup value, after the lookup value, and then the lookup vector, after the lookup vector, and then we have the result vector. That's exactly how it is. So from here, I'll just press enter. When I press enter, I'll copy the cells, the formula down. So you can see I have my F, I have my C, I have my C, I have my F, I have my D. There's actually different ways to solve this problem. Some of our lessons we have actually taken time to explain, different ways we can actually achieve this. Now let's look at another example. Let's try for the remarks. For the remarks, we say it equals to lookup. Now the only difference is that we already have another column for the remarks. So we pick the lookup value. From the lookup value, comma, and then we pick the lookup vector. Again, it's going to be the same thing, but we have it locked. So F4, comma, and then the result vector. So we just click and drag, and then we have it locked again. So we'll now press enter. So we click that and then copy it down to others. Now we did say that, okay, now what if I have values that are different from, what I have in the other way around? What if I have values that now contains 40, like what I have here? Will the lookup value return that? No. This is actually helping us to know that when we look at a problem that we want to solve, we employ different formulas. Because here now, I wouldn't want to stress myself writing a lengthy formula to solve this problem, like the if function. Okay, so for example, I can write the if function to solve this problem, and it's still going to give me the same answer. So, but then if I'm coming down to this point now, and I still want to use the lookup, so let's say it equals to lookup here, and the lookup value, I have this, comma, the lookup vector, I have to select this now, and I freeze this, and comma, the lookup great, so that's the lookup vector. That's the results vector, I beg your pardon. We freeze this again, press enter. So if we double click this, you'll find out that we now have errors. Why are they errors? Because some values here are just below 50 and the lookup can't find it. It will not look up to anything that is below 50 here. It has to be between this 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 and above. So that is why we have this not available, not available. For example, if we change this guy now, find out that it will change here. If we change this to 51, it will still give us. If we change to 51, you see exactly what we have here. So in other way around, the lookup will not solve this kind of problem for us. When we look at the nature of this data, what would solve the problem? The if function. So let's see how we can use the if function to solve this problem. We can now say is equals to if logical test. So we have to find our logical test. What would be the logical test? We're already given this guide here. So the logical test would be that if the value in this cell B10, all right, is less than 60, because anything that is less than 60 is fail. So if it is less than 60, that's what we call the logical test. Now you can see what we have. The next box there, the next argument is value if true. So what if this is true? If this is true, Excel should return the value. We're about stating the value. Should return the value if that's fail. So we now close it, comma. Instead of us to say value if false, if we say value if false, we're going to end with that. But remember, we have the fail, that's for the F, we have the D, we have the C, we have the B, and we have the A. So what do? We now say, okay, if again, we are going to nest, that's what we call multiple if functions. We call the nested if function. So we're going to nest it. Now there's a function we can use. I don't want to go to that to the Google Sheet or Excel Online again, so that the kind of thing do not start again. Okay, so here now, if the value that we have here, if the value is B10, is less than what? It's less than 70. If that's true, what should we have? Less than 70 is D, so we have D. We close. Do you see that? Now, comma, if the value, again, we open the parentheses, the value in cell B10 again is less than what? Less than 80. If that's true, if it's less than 80 and it's true, that should be B. Okay, that's going to give us B. So we pick the B. I beg your pardon, C. So we close it. Now you would notice that I'm always putting the B, the C, the F, and the D in quote, double quotation mark, because they are strings. And when you're using strings in Excel formula, they have to be in quotes. Very, very important. Now I will now say if again the value in cell B10 is less than, all right, is less than what? Less than 90, comma, the comma has to be there in quote again. If that's true, give us B. Then since we're ending with that, we don't go further again. We now say comma, we now say value if false, because all of this were value if true. So if Excel does not find any of those to meet any of those criteria, it should return the false value. That's value if false. Now will be A, and then we close it. Then we'll have to close it by the number of brackets we open. That's one thing. You can see the last bracket will always be revealing bold and it's black. You see they are color, so we press enter. So now that I press enter, you will see exactly what I have. Let me just copy this. Let's do that again with the remarks. We're now saying it equals to if. If what? If the value in cell B10 is less than, what? Less than 60, because that's it. If that's true, what should be it? Should be if. So we close that, comma. If the value in cell B10 is less than what? Less than 70. If that's true, what should be it? It should be D for us, D. All right. So again, if the value in cell B10 is less than what? Less than 80. All right. So if that is true, we now have to put the comma and in quotes. I just want you to pay attention to that. If that's true, that will give us C. Now we close the quote again, comma. If the value in cell B10 is less than what? Less than 90 this time around. All right. If that's true, give us B. Otherwise, now, yes. Now we're not going to use A, B, C, D again. Rather, let's just replace if with fail. So let's use the one we have now. So let's replace this with fail, and the D will be pass. Yes. The C will be created. And okay, so the next one will be good. So now value if false, yes, we now say comma, value if false, and I'll put excellent. So we close that by the number of parentheses we open, we press enter. So here we just double click to open. So you can see exactly what we have here. So there are just different ways. If I wanted to just solve it this way, and I notice that that's what all I want, I wouldn't need to start writing all of those long formulas. I usually use the lookup function. But here, since the values are not the same, they do not fall between that particular value that we had before, the lookup function will not return that, rather the if function. So you see exactly what we have here. All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'll do a recap tomorrow before we proceed with the PowerPoints. Thank you so much. I'd like you to just subscribe to this channel, and then just give this video a thumb up. We'll just look at it. And again, please, we have courses available. We have a training that is coming up. We'll just give you details in your various groups that you join us from. Our partners will be communicating with you very much. So just any question you want to ask, please just reach out to our partner. Especially I know that majority of us here came from a Kundayo consult. Okay. So we'll call it a day for here. We'll continue again tomorrow. I'll do a recap of the lookup function, yes, tomorrow, and probably take the last one before we proceed for the PowerPoint. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you so much. I promise that tomorrow is going to be smooth. We will definitely deal with all of the delays that we've had today, and apologies that the first link didn't work. We had to just send in the new link. Thank you very much. Thank you, and good night.